Isn't it funny how quickly the sentiment can change in crypto? We had non-stop dumping from Coinbase, BlackRock, and Binance, MicroStrategy FUD, and right now we are seeing the market turn on its head with $11 trillion asset manager Vanguard opening up to Bitcoin spot ETFs with the first day ever seeing over $5 billion in volume. We also have White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett, who has had a bias towards rate cuts, now likely to be the next Fed chair. The prediction markets are pricing this in, and we have Bank of America now suggesting a 4% Bitcoin portfolio allocation. This all happened in a matter of a couple weeks, but I'm here to keep you level-headed in this market, and I will be telling you what I think could be happening next for Bitcoin. As you know, if you've been watching the channel, we caught the knife, and now I am in some significant profits. However, it isn't time to get too excited quite yet. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So we have a lot to cover in today's video. You can see that right now as I'm recording, Bitcoin is sitting just above $93,000. Now, we hit our second take profit on my most recent Bitcoin trade. I can show it to you right here. This was shared in my free premium group. You can see that we did secure just around 250K in profit, and I'm letting the rest of the position ride. My second take profit here was actually right around that yearly open. Now, just to show you how it looks, this was my swing long trade when we entered right around $82,750, and Bitcoin was actually below that level. A lot of people were freaking out, but I was pretty convinced that we would get a significant move from that big capitulation wick down to $80,000. This was a big position for me, my biggest position in a very, very long time. My targets were $88,000, yearly open around 93.5K, and the next target is actually $98,000. But please keep in mind that right now, my stop loss is at break even. I will not be risking any more capital here. But we got a very, very nice move. You can see that Bitcoin wicked above that yearly open. Now, we've been discussing the yearly open at length on the channel. The reason why this is so significant is because if we can flip it with confidence, it is highly likely that Bitcoin can make its way towards that 98K level, which is a pivotal level in the market. If you don't know why 98K is so important, it's simply because this was the pivot that allowed us to make that brand new all-time high for Bitcoin. Now, I might sound excited, but at the beginning of the video, I did discuss how I wanted to keep you level-headed in this market. Please understand that we are still in a downtrend. And although things can change very, very quickly, you need to keep your eyes on the prize here. If Bitcoin does get rejected right around the yearly open, we could get another flush to lower levels despite all of these bullish narratives. The charts come before the news. Always remember that. This is perfectly normal price action. At this point in time, let's zoom in, taking a look at the yearly open right around 93.5K. If we can flip this level, things will be looking positive. However, we do have some crucial resistance ahead. Next up, we have this anchored VWAP, which is found right above $94,000, a possible rejection zone for Bitcoin. And if we take a fib from this 105K level down to the lows here at around $80,000, you can see that we are technically right above that 0.5 level, which can cause a little bit of resistance. This is a pretty significant zone. What I'm getting at is if we want to move higher, it is a must flip zone. Otherwise, we can easily find our way back down. Now, don't get me wrong, I am very, very happy with the profits on this trade, and I will likely continue to hold on to my position. 2 of my take profits were hit. Reminder, this was shared in my premium group. If you want to know exactly how I am personally trading this market, you have the first link in my description down below. I share all of my own personal trade setups. Now, everyone is currently freaking out. Should I go long? Should I go short? But when you're fortunate enough to have such a good entry, you can simply ride it out, which is what I've been doing, as I'm sure you've noticed over the past couple weeks on the channel. We caught the meat of the move from $80,000 up to $94,000. We entered right around 82K. Now, the point that I want to get across here is we really need to flip this yearly open as support and this anchored VWAP. Otherwise, the next thing to consider is a potential rejection, and therefore I could be looking for shorts in this market. I will let you know, of course, if I decide to enter a new trade. Naturally, my premium members get this signal right on time. But the point is, this is a tricky region. We got lots of bullishness from the lows here, a lot of news coming into the market, and you need to be relatively cautious here because I don't think that we're just going to absolutely skyrocket from here until we can perhaps reclaim some key levels. Now, If you've been watching the channel, you know that I've also been relatively vocal about the fact that I think that a relief rally could bring us back above $100,000. That's from a spot positioning, and therefore I would be offloading some of my Bitcoin if we are to make it back above $100,000, then naturally targeting this 107 region. Right around there is when I would consider offloading some of my Bitcoin that I accumulated near the bear market lows. That being said, there is some portion of my Bitcoin that I will never, and I mean never, sell. Now, let's get into some other charts. Let's look at the liquidation heat map here. You can see that on the shorter time frames, people are piling into longs, something to definitely be cautious about. We also have the fact that on the higher time frames, it is still, technically speaking, looking good. We can continue to squeeze up here so long as we can confirm above that yearly open that we've been talking about on the channel time and time again. And taking a look at this map on the 1 day time frame, you can really see that people are trying to catch this move, jumping into longs above $90,000. And I completely understand most people's perspective. Why would you long when we're absolutely dumping? But you can see the risk to reward was simply there. I came on the channel, I was vocal about it. Some of you even roasted me for trying to long the lows and trying to catch that falling knife. But naturally, you can see how this played out, and this is my best trade of the entire year. Now, let's also take a look at the fact that the Coinbase Premium is indeed showing some positive signs. This is exactly what we want to see. Coinbase Premium remains green. We likely continue to move higher. Let's touch on the news quickly. So President Trump effectively announced that Kevin Hassett will be the next Fed chair. This guy does have a bias towards rate cuts. You can hear it in his meeting.
It's a great group, and I guess a potential Fed chair is here too. I don't know. Are we allowed to say that? Potential. He's a respected person, that I can tell you. Thank you.
I guess a potential Fed chair is here, as he jokingly says. And this is actually getting priced in on Polymarket. You can see here that the odds of the White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett being the next Fed chairman surged to a record of 81%. President Trump said he has to pick the next Fed chair and will announce it soon. A new era of monetary policy is coming. And as we discussed at the beginning of the video, with Vanguard now entering the market, we saw the total spot Bitcoin ETF volume surpass $5.1 billion. We also know that Michael Saylor's strategy says it may be forced to sell Bitcoin, but the positive news here is that this will literally only happen if there's a 3-year sustained down cycle, which seems relatively unlikely if things are to repeat.
If there's literally a 3-year sustained Bitcoin down cycle, a 3-year sustained cycle where NAV trades below 1x, then we may have to sell Bitcoin. At this point in time, it's the end of 2025. We're talking about 2029, where that may be the case. And we have the Bitcoin for a reason, to protect the company, to protect our shareholders. And if we have to sell, we...
And there you have it. They essentially have a 3-year runway. Now, let's also talk about the fact that CZ came out and said he's predicting many more all-time highs coming soon. This guy is a generational troll. Whenever he talks about this, we typically start seeing some pumps with Binance buying. However, when he says, for example, dips are for buying, we have notoriously seen that the market starts dipping. It's crazy the amount of manipulation here. And at the same time, which we covered at the beginning of the video, $11 trillion Vanguard officially lists BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF for their clients. Now, this was an absolute crazy launch, with seeing over $5 billion in volume on the first day. And naturally, with Vanguard coming in here, we saw that IBIT flipped positive thanks to all of their buys. Something else that you need to understand is it seems a little bit suspicious. The same Vanguard that said crypto is a risk and denied ETFs to be traded there now launches ETFs after Bitcoin dumps over 30%. The same Vanguard that owns 9.4% of JP Morgan, the largest institutional shareholder, the same JP Morgan that supposedly crashed crypto harder than it ever needed to be on October 10th, the same JP Morgan that issued an investor note warning that MicroStrategy risked exclusion from major indexes like the MSCI USA, the NASDAQ 100, the S&P 500 due to its Bitcoin-heavy balance sheet. The same JP Morgan that recycled a 42-day-old document on October 10th to amplify panic, just as Bitcoin and MicroStrategy were softening and lining up perfectly with Trump's 4:50 p.m. tariff speech, which sparked a global flash crash, which equities were recovering from, but crypto was left suffering. All this to lead the largest asset manager in the world giving a chance for their customers to buy the low. It can't be. Can it? Now, this is of course just conspiracy. Believe what you want to believe, but I thought this was very, very interesting to share in today's video. But you can see the results on the first day, the Vanguard effect. Bitcoin essentially jumped 6% right around US Open on the first day after the Bitcoin ETF ban was lifted. Coincidence? Probably not. Also, $1 billion in IBIT volume happened in the first 30 minutes of trading. Those Vanguardians had a little degen in them. Even some of the most conservative investors like to add a little hot sauce to their portfolio. So what is next? Bitcoin is still hovering right around $93,000. Look, I think that it's important to exercise a little bit of caution, because if you zoom out, we are still very much in a downtrend. There will be bullish news to try and move the market forward. However, I still firmly believe that a relief rally should be considered to offload some spot positioning, which is what I will personally be doing. Now, from a trading perspective, this is absolutely epic. Of course, I just want to see Bitcoin soar much higher. However, at this point in time, with the pump that we got and the fact that I managed to enter at much, much lower levels, I do think that it makes sense to start eyeing a potential short in this market. I want to see the reaction right around these yearly opens. So far, we've been rejected. However, you know what they say about resistance and support levels. The more and more time that you tap into a level, the more and more likely it is that that level will break. And you can see that we tapped into it essentially 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, these ones we didn't quite tap into it, but you get the point. This is a general level here that we need to break if we are to see more upside. Then we can start talking about this anchored VWAP on the shorter time frames above $94,000. Then break above here, and we're talking about that 98K level, which is my third take profit on my most recent Bitcoin long. Now, if you want to know exactly how I'm trading this, you have the links in the description down below. You have the first link, which brings you to my free premium group, and the second link, which is one of my favorite exchanges, brings you directly to Bluffin. If you're a relatively big trader on Bluffin, remember that I can get you VIP access depending on what you deposit. This significantly reduces your trading fees. And also, if my trade didn't convince you that I caught the falling knife, I was pretty vocal about it 12 days ago about catching this falling knife, and you can read some of the comments. A lot of people were very, very bearish as Bitcoin headed down to $80,000. I was very convinced of a bounce. Now I am planning my next move in this market. And that sums up today's quick video. It's funny how quickly the market can shift. I'm still holding on to my positions, but I am planning my next move in this market as all of this bullish news continues to come out. Remember, don't miss the bigger picture. We are still technically in a downtrend, and I am expecting a little bit of a rejection relatively soon. The question is, are we going to hold above the yearly open and target $98,000? Or are we just going to reject from here once more? If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.